All right, so we're live. Yay. All right, so we're gonna just kind of get back into things after a break. We're gonna be down a player. Ken's wife is finishing up her PhD stuff, and so her schedule changed. So we're not gonna have Ken for a bit, but we'll troop on. And I told him I wouldn't necessarily just outright kill his character, so that if he wants to rejoin us, he can without having to just make a new everything.
Keep a low profile, keep it to himself.
Right. Well, if you remember when you saw him, he was very late to the gate and looked like he had been beaten pretty badly.
Oh yeah.
And he kind of lagged behind as you guys came through, and you haven't seen him in the little bit of time that you've been back on this side. Well, been on this side. You haven't seen him, haven't interacted with him. He didn't follow you into the barracks. He apparently went elsewhere. But you do know that he had mentioned or had been told by the lady in the church and that there were members of the church already on this side, and that he needed to seek out one of them anyway.
And he did cross with us.
Yeah,
but he never got as far
right?
as barracks.
Yeah.
Is that right?
What was that? He did cross over,
with us,
yes.
but he never got to the barracks that we did, right?
Right. He presumably went into a different direction, because he is not currently with you.
So how long have we been on this side now?
At this point, you guys have been here for about 5 or 6 hours. We're gonna pick up just tail ending where we were last time. You have been assigned or given bunks in these barrack situations. Each of them have a wooden locker to the side of the bed. Each of them have a foot locker at the end of the bed. They're relatively comfortable for being what they are. They're not maybe the luxuriousness that some of you are used to or maybe even pine for, but they're serviceable. And they seem to, on cursory glance, be free from bugs and things like that as best as possible. There is a mixed smell of fresh water, which is not a big thing that those of you who are from Core proper are used to. Yes, the Core River does run right there, but there's so much humanity slammed in the Core that you don't really get the chance to smell that water. But a mere 45-minute walk from you and a little bit of a climb is a river that is 4 miles across, right? It's a lot of fresh water there, and it's pouring down raining, so you have that sort of very forced fresh smell. You can smell the mud, you can smell the grass, but by the same token, you have 115 people who are living in a relatively confined area, so there is a very soldierly smell of being here that is present in the barracks. Mix that with maybe not always dried out or washed boots, and pieces of meat being cooked over fires or further along in the actual mess hall. And it is, if nothing short of assailant on your senses, right? The sounds are all muffled here. There's not the din of a city, but there is a thrum of people as they do what is required to keep this facility, for lack of better terminology, operational. As Alex kind of pointed out, and I'm sure Icarus has pointed out before we went live, this place has been here and in a fashion or another for 20 years now. And for them to have only been able to create these 2 long L-shaped buildings and a couple of gates seems a bit disparate to what you would think of as progress in 20 years, especially for a project that is funded and headed by the most advanced magical group in all of core, at least, if not in all of the world. So you guys have settled in. The rain has slacked. There's that sort of plip plop drip drop of rain as it rolls off of the stable and the forge, the only two pitch roofed buildings in the entire place. Everything else is flat and stone. The stable and the forge both have roofs that are made out of not quite thatch, more mats of dried grass that are laid up there.
Not ideal for a forge, but
well, it's one of those things that I think, Icarus, when you look at it, you kind of, that doesn't necessarily seem the smartest, but with the torrential downpour that you just had, maybe that's something that happens often enough that
yeah,
the roof is always soggy. Now
I know we spent a bunch of time on the other side at the beginning of this whole thing, so our characters probably know this, but I don't remember as a player. What is the sort of expressed purpose of this place? Like other than just, because like obviously it has structure, it functions, but other than just existing in this place, does it have an expressed purpose, like defending the portal, exploring, looking for resources, any of that stuff? Is there an expressed sort of purpose?
It seems a little murky. It's a 7-year mission, right? No, it seems murky. What you could gather, what you've known in the last 20 years of your life on the other side, is that it started off as a curiosity, right? Can we go through? And once they were through, the Collegium rapidly sank their claws into it for one reason or another, and those reasons are their own. They haven't really come forth with anything, but they did start sending just chunks of people over here, and the people they've sent over would be the equivalent of magical historians, magical botanists, zoologists, that type of thing. If you could imagine someone who's like the Jane Goodall of troglodytes, not of gorillas, is kind of the type of person that comes over here. And then as that progressed and politics did what politics do and made it even murkier, kingdoms such as Kor, or the eastern houses, or the southern trade cities, as they started expressing interest in coming through too, right? Because you have this potential for untapped resources. Rich merchants started getting interested in. And so this facility, if you want to call it that, exists right now in sort of this state of flux. In the last couple of years, the last 2 to 3, there's been an influx of homesteaders that were okayed by Core, right? You come through, you tame it, you farm it, you pay taxes. Yes, we go so far as to send a tax collector through, and the tax collector comes through and assesses the value of what they think you have, and you're paying taxes on that. And it's yours, right? So Core's subtly claiming land in that way. The facility exists to protect the arcanists who came through. So what they do, you don't know. But the group of mercenaries that are here that act as guard are there to protect it. The other sort of laborers that are also here are here to cook food and mine wares and repair armor and keep after horses and so on and so forth. That was kind of it. So
yeah, it seems kind of stagnant. In other words, nothing is.
It is. It's almost like they have hit some sort of opposition that perhaps the world as a greater whole is unaware of.
I
Well,
can also see a situation like, keep in mind that this place is out of sight, out of mind for the most part to core. So anytime someone brings up on the core side, some government official says, "Hey, we should send more resources." No, that's a waste of time. It's been 10 years, 20 years, we've gotten nothing out of it. Let's spend the money. You know what I mean? Let's not spend. I can see some resistance in that sense.
And there definitely has
Oh,
been
sure.
like
But there are
TJ,
resources in this world that could be easily, well, maybe not easily, but certainly, yeah, accessed.
100%. And
Right,
so
but
that's
just
kind of
because it's
where
logical, I mean, think about space
Well,
travel,
right.
right? People argue against spending money on space travel, even though we could be profitable.
Well,
so
but I'm talking about people who live over there,
opening the
whose
portal
lives
to this
depend
side,
on it.
right? Coming from
Yeah.
core to here is not difficult. They
Right.
can open that portal pretty much as often as they need to. It just takes magic to do it. On this side, it seems as though that there's not, if magic were electricity, there's enough wires run to the portal on the core side that they can open it whenever they want. On this side, in order to open it, there's not. It takes some sort of flux in that power for them to open it from this side. So this side has become completely reliant on the core side opening it and sending stuff through. And because of that, because of where the portal lies in the Badlands, because you still have the sort of ogre nation that sits right there, and there's a lot of politics about should the Collegium be the only ones in charge of this? Should it be the Kingdom of Core? Should they be in charge of it? Should it be open to everyone? Well, that offer was made very early on in the discovery of this portal, but no one jumped on it because they didn't want to go to war with the ogres. And then the Collegium did themselves, right? That's where they sort of developed. If you want to think about it, they have a privatized army. They pay some of the best mercenaries in the world to work for them, and some of those are on this side now. So I think Rob, you're very right in your thinking that a lot of times there's a lot of hand waving that comes from both sides of no, it's not worth it financially to send more stuff over, and even from this side to the sort of out of sight, out of mind type that was mentioned earlier. Yeah, they kind of have free run on this side, right? They can do what they want, but as Icarus pointed out, doesn't look like they've done a whole lot
They don't want to do anything. Yeah.
or something.
Well,
So, the other individual, we were kind of recapping some of the individuals that came over. We know we have Liam Newsworth, right? He came over, swapped out with his partner. They run the general store that sits on this side. The other individual that came over with you guys was a gentleman that you had met at the dinner, who was perhaps not very personable, but nonetheless a relative big wig in the grand scheme of things. Cayman Iope.
mm-hmm.
He's one of the highest ranking members of the church. This gentleman, if you remember him,
Yeah.
Who is on this side, and like I said, didn't really give you the time of day or anything during the travel to the portal. And as soon as he got here, kind of beelined right for whatever on this side is his. And so these questions raised, and the rain letting off, you do sort of find yourselves looking outdoors and windows into a courtyard in the center of Postgate. The way that it sits, with large piles of mud and puddles that are everywhere. You see people now sort of beginning to go back to that business of taking care of things. And that's where we'll pick up. Eden has since left you. She has disappeared into the building. The barracks, the storage, the barracks, the guardhouse are all connected. There are doors that run through them all. And then likewise, the dining hall to the fancy barracks, to the office, to the storage, there's doors that run through all of those. So only to cross between the two buildings do you necessarily have to step outside. But she has gone. Rinder Chap Humble, the old guy with the scar over his eye, who's kind of in charge of everything not arcanist here, has he de-gauntleted and kind of he looks like that lifer military guy that even when he gets out of his uniform is still mostly in uniform, because that's how he's lived his entire life. Like he's comfortable, like to the point where he sleeps in chainmail just about. Right, that's just him. This particular set of the barracks that you guys are in, the short side, is empty. There's no other individuals in here other than yourselves. But looking out, you do see some individuals at the stable. You can make out some people over the forge and other people entering and exiting the dining hall, the office, the storage, so on and so forth. And they seem to be going about duty, if not life. But what you don't see is anyone venturing out beyond the two gates.
One of the first things I want to do is I want to touch base with our little group here that I came through with. I don't know where that weird priest went. He wandered off on his own. Screw him. But
or the abbot.
Or the abbot. So, but I'll touch base with these three. They seem pretty solid. And they'll say, "Hey, I need to head over to the forge and kind of suss up the situation here. We should meet at the barracks at the dining hall for lunch, though. Let's keep in touch. I appreciate that we all had each other's backs on the other side, and I don't know what we're going to find over here, but I think I'd like to maintain that connection, if you know what I mean."
An excellent idea. Keep an eye out for any oddities or even perhaps strange culture rules they have here. We are in a different lands, and we want to fit in.
I think the only thing odd here is when we find something that's not odd. Everything seems to be kind of off here.
Well, enjoy your forge.
I will. We'll compare notes this afternoon. See what we can find out. So
I'm going to look around the barracks, and but roughly estimating the number of beds, I want to try and guesstimate how many people these barracks house, or at least are currently.
Okay. Let's see.
Is it like a dozen, or is it like 30, or 60,000?
16.
Okay. I think Icarus had a good idea. It might behoove us to wander about and find out what we can about this place. I think I might go talk to Liam.
Okay. What's everybody else up to?
Thargus is kind of like unpacked what I could bring over with me, since I couldn't bring my my 3 6-foot chests / wardrobes, and so I've brought out my older brother's sword and some what I would consider dressed down like dueling clothing, a vest and breeches and such, and I'm kind of like taking an assessment of what I have and don't have, and I'm thinking like I'm reluctant to let go of all these things, but I know that the party that I'm with, like I'm going to have to count on them, and in order for me to count on them, they're going to have to trust that I'm not going to be in their way. So I just basically close up the chest, pull out about maybe 3 sets of clothing that I may need, the most rugged that I can think of, and place the sword on my waist and go outside and commune with the others.
So you select the clothing with the least amount of lace on it.
Yes,
Got
it's still prissy in other people's terms, but it would be what maybe someone would use when they're out like hunting with hounds, go after the fox or something like that. Something you'd wear for polo maybe, or highlight or something.
Safari clothing from Brooks Brothers.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's got his khaki shorts and his little pith helmet. I'm
Yep.
ready.
Strictly for Wolfram's own amusement, when I see Thargus come out and knowing his fastidiousness, I want to cast a Mage Hand Ledger Domain, and I'm going to just have the hand, pick up a bit of mud and just gently do a mud handprint on the back of his cloak.
All right.
In the center. Just because it amuses me.
Mud handprint.
Thargus, do you want to come see how Smithy works? I don't want to interrupt you today. I don't want to take you away from anything, obviously.
I'd love to. Matter of fact, I would love to. Sure, show me what it is that you do. You seem pretty passionate about it.
Oh, I love building anything. Although, looking at this place, I may have to trade mediums to from metal to maybe stone or something, maybe even wood. I've considered it. Yeah, be a significant change, but that's life, isn't it?
I suppose. I look around at this place and thinking, well, I wonder where the valuable resources are.
Yeah, I kind of as we're kind of walking over in that direction, I'll kind of come in closer to him, say, do you think they could have done a little bit more here in 20 years? I mean, I understand politics and they can't get supplies to that much, but I mean, there's stuff here they could use. I mean, geez, I don't know.
Kind of to make that a point as you guys are walking. You can see out the end of this. The gates are open right now. There's just no one leaving them.
Yeah.
And across this river, which is 4 miles wide, is a forest that is so massive that it is almost mind-boggling, right? It's you're looking at trees that are 40, 50, 60, 200 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's resources there.
I say, I mean, if we could get some people over there, just get them across, they could establish a new camp, begin building barges. I mean, this is not complex machinery we're talking here, and I know something about complex machinery, and this ain't it. I don't know.
Well, my dad used to say that the normal resting state of humanity is death. So anything beyond that takes a lot of energy. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but I just know I don't see anything here that is worth bringing back. So there must be.
But then why all the hierarchy and security and all the military kind of stuff? I mean, if there's nothing here, what are they guarding? You know?
Yeah. Or who are they? Who are they keeping quiet? Maybe maybe there's something here they don't know. We need to get to cross this river. To find out anything. I'm not volunteering. I'm just saying that, maybe.
No, I understand.
Some of us could. Maybe that's the danger.
Well, let's see. The blacksmith shop is the hub of the community, so maybe this fella here will know a few extra things if we can pry him the right way. Every machine works a little better with a little grease. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I quite agree with you, but sure. Sure. The forge is the hub. Sure.
Yeah, so, we'll continue on.
All right. So you guys are heading towards the forge.
Yeah.
Where are you going there?
The original assignment I was given was for whatever the food gathering hunting party is. So I'm going to go check out. Durr is headed in trying to find directions to wherever their equipment and the leader of that one is, just to get a feel for what they're taking and what they're going after.
Okay. All right.
As I'm walking about, I'm going to put on a smile, and it's a smile. It's a long practice smile. It's an attempt to disarm people, just to make them comfortable. I'm really using this self-tour I'm taking as an excuse to scope the place out. Force of habit, or just good idea. Call it what you want.
Okay.
Finally, I'm keeping an eye out for this pewter box, which is supposed to be in this compound somewhere. But I am headed to the store. I want to know the economic situation and what's in
Right.
demand, what's not.
So the store itself, after asking around, it's really a desk inside of the storage building at the moment. Although there has been construction started on an actual store building down amongst the homesteaders. So,
Sure, it's only been 20 years.
right. It's taking.
Are there shelves in this store?
No. It's kind of almost like going to a quartermaster and asking for, right. It's there's no like perusing or shopping. This is what I need.
Gotcha.
Type of so the store and the blacksmith are in the general same direction. After sort of asking around and finding where you would go for what are termed as scouts, it's the hunters, the gatherers, that group. They're normally like their gear is with them, but the bigger stuff is kept in the stables. But the head of them is also at the smithy at the moment, getting resupplied and or chit-chatting. They're not really sure. So as you guys more or less move across the compound in that direction, inside the smithy is Fraught. That's the head of, well, I guess he's the smith, and as we said before, he's not a smith by trade, right? He is a arcanist who was taught how to do smithing in order to come over here. Almost all the key positions are exactly that. They weren't their positions to begin with. These were wizards and sorcerers who were then taught how to do a function for this type of settlement.
I know you're a poet, but here is how you weld.
Yes. Right. You're really into math, but we're going to need you to grow corn.
We know you've heard of warrior poets. These are welding poets and
So,
digging poets.
as you go into the smithy is a stone pillared building, right? One on each of the four corners, and then one at the front and back middle section. It's surrounded by a 4-foot half wall. Otherwise, it's an open air environment.
Nice.
There are a couple of large cabinets in here that are made of wood and heavily lacquered or covered in something. As you can see the rain dripping through the roofing onto them and then rapidly running off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Fraught is sitting in there at a desk. There are papers all over it. There are a couple of forges in there that are giving off heat, but nothing seems to be actively being worked at the moment. And standing next to him is a half orc who is dressed in leathers and no colors like you've seen associated with most of the mercenaries. He seems to be dressed much more practically, right?
Yeah.
He has a crossbow that he has sort of sitting on the table in front of him, or the desk in front of him, that's Fraught is sitting behind. And as you guys approach it, there's a lot of gesturing and gesticulating about this crossbow. And as you walk up, you hear the half orc talking around his tusks as half orcs do. We're gonna need a bigger spring or something. It won't penetrate their hide. And Fraught kind of leans back and, I don't know what you want me to do. I mean, I know what you want me to do, but I don't know what you want me to do about what you want me to do. I can't make springs out of stone. And I aim for the soft bits. Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
It's a rock. It doesn't have any vulnerable spots. So I'm gonna walk up and say, Master Hurdley, I presume.
He looks and then he looks and then looks.
Yeah.
And then he pulls his glasses down a little bit and can I help you?
Yes. Pardon my intrusion. Icarus Turin. And I hold up my hand to shake.
He reaches across the desk and shakes yours without standing, but he shakes it.
I say, I'm here to help. I know a bit about metalworking and forging, and in fact, I brought some materials with me.
Yeah, the church, gnomes and forges and things. Well, good. And he stands up for the first time, walks around the desk and goes, "All of you?"
No, they came through with me. I was gonna. They're sort of checking out the place too. They're new here as well, but they were coming this way.
Well, he scoops the crossbow off the desk and just kaplunks it to you. Needs a bigger spring, he says. I
kind of look it over. Well, he's not wrong. I say, can I talk to you for a minute? And I point to the half orc.
Yeah, the half orc looks down and puzzled, but he smiles after a moment and extends this huge hand to each of you in turn, and introduces himself as Zavorol. No
Zavoral.
last name, anything like that. He Zavoral.
All right.
If you're looking for a spelling, it's Zevorall.
Okay. Mr. Zavoral, and I'm talking to him, and I'm actually looking at the steel. I'm sort of bending the arms and kind of get a feel for it.
As you look at it, this is clearly manufactured not here. And it's actually a very good heavy crossbow.
Yeah.
It looks, there's a bit of rust, surface rust to it. The wood is a little swollen from water.
Yeah.
But it's well used, right? It's got the shoulder butt of it is polished from being pressed in, right?
Yeah.
It's been modified, so a lot of heavy crossbows went underneath your arm.
Yeah.
Right. This one has been modified so that it actually sits like a rifle, up and tight. It's got markings on it that if you read Orcish or in Orcish, Orcish uses a very crude form of a dwarvish alphabet. It's imagine if you gave a 3-year-old crayons and told them to write the alphabet.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the letters are right. Some of them are backwards, and some of them are just squiggles. But it was the Orc attempt at the dwarvish alphabet. So it looks like he's kept it in pretty good repair. And it looks completely functional. Like, yes, your inclination to say it needs a bigger spring. I mean, heck, we can probably make it repeating and shoot lasers if we wanted it to. But it looks.
I'll need an extra day for that.
Functional. And so he shakes everyone's hand in turn, and he grips way up, especially anyone who is smaller, shorter, or slighter. Right.
Yeah.
He grips in such a way that it's more like he's feeling out your musculature than he is necessarily.
He's actually probably pretty surprised with me for a gnome. I'm pretty buff,
right? But still, like, when he reaches up your arm, it's like all the way up to your neck. He's just like,
yeah, pretty much.
He shakes you and not your hand.
And as someone who's used to shaking hands with dwarves, where they like to sort of, it's kind of a little contest. I kind of do the same thing to him, and I kind of squeeze him back, maybe a little harder, just kind of match him a bit. It's one of those like, hand squeezing contest kind of things.
He smiles, and he kind of gives almost like a grunt of acknowledgement, I guess, that comes with that. And you'll see that he does it for both you and for Dur. The other two of you have a little too soft of hands for him, right?
Steve?
Yeah.
After he shakes hands with the gnomish individual and lets his massive paw grasp me, I'm not that strong. But as he reaches out, I'm going to shift my fingers a little bit, and as he starts to squeeze, I'm going to hit the nerve point at the center of his elbow and make his hand go. Oh!
Right. So he kind of a little bit at it, but doesn't. And then he steps back and scratches his head. He reaches into he's got leather armor on, right? It's almost like a
Oop. We lost your voice.
curious, right?
Your sound cut out there, Steve.
Your mic's cut in and out.
Well, too bad. Guess at what I'm saying.
Well, it was very gestury.
Yeah, it was awfully nice to give us all that gold, and especially that those magic wands. Those are fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the hand, Joe.
So what I was saying is it's like a boiled leather cuirass, right? But it's been enameled or shellacked, or I don't know what the actual proper terminology for that is, but it's been made so that when you tap on it, you have a bit of a to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over top of that, he has a very fun
Oh, lost you again.
Yeah, you got a finicky connection there. It's
No.
There we are.
we got you.
Heard that.
I don't know what is going on with this thing.
It just feels like the cord's coming slightly
Yeah.
unconnected.
So here's the thing. It's actually a cordless mic.
Oh, weird.
Give me a second. It's going to drop for a moment.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully that's back and won't drop.
Yeah, we hear you now. So
At any rate, it's a hardened leather armor that he has a multi-pocketed vest over it.
nice.
He reaches inside this vest and he pulls out this cigarette, for lack of better terminology, that has, when he lights it, has it, and he lights it by just like sticking it into the forge. Like he's not drawing on it. He just like waits for it to catch fire, and then but it's got this very, very aromatic floral scent to it that is strange to all of you. There's nothing earthly, corally about it.
Yeah.
It's very sweet and nectary for a dried, what you're hoping is dried plant because of his dried animal. That's entirely different. And so when he does, he sits down on the corner of the desk, and so you can make it better.
Oh, almost certainly. So what is it you're killing with these things? I couldn't help it over here. So
None of you.
Oh. Uh-oh.
This is how my life has been going.
Can everyone else hear me?
I hear
Yeah,
you fine.
okay. All right. Yeah.
So sorry. All right. Can someone say something?
Hello.
I heard both of you fine.
Yeah, I hear you, Steve. Just testing.
Amazing.
Boobs. Yep.
I hear everybody just fine.
Not in this group.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was a female, so no boobs.
So, well, depends how fussy you are. I might be able to help you.
There's a bunch of boobs here.
Yeah.
Are you saying I should lose weight?
You guys hear me?
To the man? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello?
And now I can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
There was
So anyway,
confusion.
he looks down and so you can make this better.
Yeah. I say, almost certainly. I was, what is it exactly you're trying to kill here? I couldn't help but overhearing you were having trouble piercing the hide. It would help me to know what you're going after here.
All right. Have you ever been out to the eastern houses?
On this side?
No. In Core, the eastern lands.
I don't know. Honestly. No, I have not, I'm afraid.
There's beasts out there that are Korax. Large like a bull, but thick-bladed like a armadillo.
Okay.
So something similar here, but much bigger and more plated like a knight. Not metal.
Woof.
Well, I think your problem is twofold here. Having a stronger crossbow would certainly help, but ultimately it's the tip of the bolt that's gonna pierce that.
Yeah, we were thinking that. Now we're not hunting these things all the time. When we go out for food, we're more after the water rabbits. But these things, when they get involved,
How much can you comfortably lift?
Me?
To carry around with you as a weapon, for example. I need to know how heavy I can make this and still have it so something you can wield. I mean, I know what I can wield, but I'm not.
So he describes it to you in terms that you get the impression that he's probably comfortable carrying around 600 or 700 pounds.
Yikes. Okay.
But you
right.
also get that maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I figure I cut it by half. But it's like, all right, that gives me a range I can work with. I tell you what, if you want to come back, I can maybe have a prototype for you tomorrow that we can test. Do you have any sample of its hide by any chance? Something? Have you killed any of these things in the past yet?
Oh, we got one down by the river. I can take you all down there, show it to you, give you a bit of a tour, and then he kind of like fingers across all of you. Which one is joining me?
Permanently or just for the walk?
Yeah. Well, I kind of cock my thumb over at Dur.
This one has that honor.
You ever hunted?
This one has been supplying food from game.
You see him puzzling through the terms. Track.
This one has some training in that area.
Do you know the difference when to shoot something and when to run? You'll learn quick.
I kind of cut over and say, oh yeah, he can do that.
All right. Well, you're not going to get anything here from Fraught. He's a good guy, but more concerned with magic than metal. That might be the most painful thing that Icarus has ever heard. Come along.
Oh,
and he takes the crossbow back from you.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Gonna want this. You guys. And he looks you over real fast. Is anyone carrying an obviously ranged weapon?
Not at the no. Right. I'm not.
There is. You got that little crossbow, right?
Yeah, it's a light crossbow.
Yeah. All right, so he you guys leave and he heads back towards the stables. The stables have a whopping 4 horses in them, by the way. That is all.
Okay.
They have 4 horses, a couple of pigs, but they're not eaten pigs. They are bristly and muscly and tusked.
Are they work pigs or?
They are straight up war pigs.
Oh.
You know of them being used in the southern kingdoms by some of the halfling merchant houses. Like these are yes, Rob. These are like you'll get 2 halflings on the back of them. One of them who's like steering it with a lance, and the other one who's like hucking stones at people. And they are a pretty effective unit. I want to say military because they don't operate that way, but they're pretty good at what they do. But they are distinctly Southern Kingdom.
Okay.
So anyway, he takes you guys over there, and he opens up another large lacquered case, and inside it are other heavy crossbows, are some normal crossbows, are some longbows and some short bows, and then there are quivers or whatever you keep crossbow bolts in, because it's not actually called a quiver. They're inside there. So you guys, if you want, you have access to a ranged arm of your choice and 20 ammo for it.
I'll take a hand crossbow since that is one of those that I'm proficient with.
I'm actually
same here. I see everyone else arming up. I guess that's what we're going to need.
Steve, considering the size of this orc and the crossbow he's carrying, are these windlass or are these stirrup crossbows?
So there are two of them in there. I'm assuming windlass means the crank ones.
Yep.
There are two of them in there that are crank ones, and they're slightly larger than the one he's using.
Okay.
And then the others all appear to be just step on them and draw it.
Stirrup.
Quit trying to eat my hamster. Yeah, just regular crossbows. And then there's a couple of the hand crossbows, short bows, and there are two rather strange items in here. In our world, we would know them as a chakram and a boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been either east or south, then they are pretty interesting, but not necessarily do they look functional to you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with my own weapons I'm familiar with. I've built them myself and armed them myself, so I'm comfortable with them. But I will look over everyone's weapons, as they take them, to just make sure that they're up to par.
Okay. So you notice things like there are hash marks, like tick marks carved into some of them, right?
Yeah.
One of them has a name, Morona, carved into it. Some of them have where they've had the prod of the crossbow has been like padded, or they have paint that's starting to wear off, right? So these all seem to be personalized a little bit. But as you grab things out and take them, or maybe you grab one, look at it, and put it back, like Zevral says nothing to you. It's not like you're taking someone's personal item and
stuff, yeah.
As far as he's concerned.
Yeah.
So you guys get you get your weapons if you like.
Yeah.
And
I am gonna get armored up, because if there's a risk of us being fighting something, I'm gonna be prepared. So might as well go and ready.
He looks at you putting on your heavy armor. I understand the thinking, but don't go near the water.
Oh, don't worry. not a fan of water myself.
You say that, he looks at you, and you see the thought happen and then coalesce, and he I can smell that. And so he takes you out of the camp. As you guys get out, it occurs to you that within 20 feet of any given side of this, the grass has been chopped, ripped, tore, dug, anything they could do, burned in places, anything they could do to keep it low.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it begins to creep up until you get to where the grass is 3.5 feet tall in places. And he starts heading you what is obviously a path that has been worn through some of this taller grass. And it winds a little bit and eventually drops you off this plateau, so that as you, about 20 minutes worth of walking, you get to the base of the plateau, and you can look back and up and now see that Postgate actually sits about 150 feet above sea level, river level. Down here, the grass is much shorter, and you can see these little white birds everywhere. They're floating on the river. They are sitting in the grass, and as you guys go near them, they squawk and they get up and run. They never fly, but they just haul hiney away from you.
Are they like sparrow sized or duck sized?
Softball size.
Okay.
Like that big.
Squabs.
And they run, and when one runs, it runs near another one, and then that one gets the idea to run, and so eventually you get this very like wave effect of as the whole thing, and it looks like a white tide, and then they all settle back down. They don't move much more than 20, 30 feet from you before they plop back down. You get down, or you wind around a little bit. The plateau or jut of land that this that Postgate sits on comes to a point, and as you round that, you begin to see this large form sitting towards the river. It's not right up against the water. It's probably halfway between the cliff and the water. And he points out, "Oh, that's it." As you approach it, it's the size of a hut of an actual like one room dwelling. It is dead, obviously. It has chunks that have been sort of carved out of it. See if I can show you a picture.
Flies buzzing it.
There's no flies on it. There are these beetle things that are gnawing at portions of it and then sort of skitter away as you get close. There's not a stench. Oh, it's only been dead a day or so. But
Good.
there it is. Don't have a name for it yet.
All right, let's take a look at this thing. See what we got. And I'm gonna go over and start to examine the its hide, its armor particularly.
Okay.
Looking for overall thickness. Looking for areas where it's thinner.
So
kind of
the only
looking
place,
at it with a machine, basically trying to look for where it's likely to fail.
the only places that seem soft to the touch are its jaw, like the mouth, the pinky part of that illustration.
Right.
His eyes and his ears. Outside of that, everything is either a very thick hide or has these little dermal ridges to them that feel somewhere between chitin and stone.
Okay.
Weird looking.
Dur's walking about 8-10 feet out from the the froghemoth there, and just circling. What I'm looking for are tracks. Dead, lying there for 24 hours. No scavengers, nothing, no opportunistic carnivores that have tried to get at it. Nothing except for those beetles.
The only tracks you find appear to be humanoid, little bird tracks, and then this thing's own giant tracks that are coming to this point from the river.
Jeez.
What dropped it? Is it got spears and shit sticking out of it, or?
So essentially, that's exactly what you see. Is it took multiple lucky hits with arrows and corals and or bolts rather. Coral would be what you carry crossbow bolts in. Good job, Steve. Basically a bunch of luck brought it down. It's got some just behind its eye. It's got some in that jaw area, but it looks more like brute force rather than tactics is what dropped this thing.
Right. All right. So I'm just kind of doing some mental calculations. I take out my little notebook and I begin jotting down some information. Trying to get a feel for how much force I'm going to need to get through this. What kind of head I can make that can better penetrate it. Like instead of a typical hunting head, this is going to be like a kind of an armor piercing sort of thing. Like just a wedge. A very like four-sided like wedge shaped head rather than a wider razor sharp head, that kind of thing. So I'm writing all these notes down as I'm walking around it. Okay, good. Yeah, let's see, 2 inches there.
Icarus.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have a hand axe with you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think more of a hammerman myself, but hang on, let me see. I could get you one in a few minutes. I'm pretty sure.
I've got a dagger.
Not for what this one is thinking. Icarus, if you are carrying your tools, do you have a set of metal shears?
Yeah. I don't have my full set with me, but let me see here.
I've got 2 daggers.
No, it's got to be something heavier.
Zorval looks at you. What do you want?
How long before we have to hold it back?
Dark.
All right.
Give
me an hour. I'll get you something.
For Zorval, this one's idea is shooting randomly is a waste of energy. Let us attempt to open it and find the dead spots.
He
want to gut it.
Yeah.
So it's already been like opened on one side where they've been removing meat. So he gestures at that and then pulls out this horribly made heavy short sword / dagger. It's too short to be a short sword, too long to be a dagger. That is it's orcish in design, right? So it's got jagged bits all over it, but it's extremely thick. So it's essentially it's equivalent of like a cleaver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he hands it to you. Try not to mess up the meat.
This one shall attempt. Where they've opened it, I'm going to start, but I'm going to do rib removal so I can see the internal structure.
Okay.
And if I get bloody, I get bloody. Who cares?
I'm not sure. All right. So you open it up and you find bits that you're like, well, that's an intestine. I got that much figured out, and that's another part of it.
So there's no real analogy to the internal structure of other animals or people that I have gutted in the past.
So you can find like intestines in a stomach, and maybe its liver is not where you're expecting it to be, or it doesn't have a pancreas. But the weirdest thing to you is it has this gigantic flat sack inside of it. Like it lies along the stomach, and at first it seemed like this was almost like an interior lining, but then depending on how you want to do this, if you hack it enough or you climb up inside of it,
head, shoulders, and elbow deep.
Yeah,
so this thing is big enough like it could be a tent almost.
100%. You could tauntaun it if you had to.
I wonder if this
I see him interested. I take a look. Say, is that some kind of bladder?
This one thinks with the tracks and the size, air bladder.
Maybe. Yeah. I kind of look at the river. I say, I wonder if these things float.
Well, that's where they come from.
Oh, there you go.
They swim out there.
A buoyancy bladder, an air bladder. This one has heard that some of the deeper marine animals have similar structures.
Like a whale.
Yeah.
He says
something like
incorrectly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, something like that. But it's you never want to reinvent the wheel, my grandfather used to say. So if we can do what these things do to cross the river,
or use this to cross the river,
well, that's what I'm saying. We can use the bladders to as buoyancy Make something to get across in.
Reach up as high as I can and cut the tube that connects it. Pull the sucker out the hand to him.
So in order to take this thing out in more or less one piece, you're going to be like waist deep in this thing, carving out chunks of it. But eventually, you do find that in fact this connects to some nodule on the backside of its lungs, almost like it could swallow air and
fill the bag,
pump it into this. So yeah, you do that. The other things you'll notice as you root around in this is that it almost has another layer of protection on the inside of it. And its teeth are all flat.
That doesn't mean anything.
As you're like still cutting away and looking at different parts of this. So I imagine that once you're committed to being this dirty, that you're chopping pieces and Icarus is just taking notes. Like, took him 42 swings to get through that part. Won't be shooting there. There are gigantic muscles that sit right behind its ears. The brain cavity is very tiny compared to the size of this thing's skull. And it has not one, not two, but 3 different hearts. The bones, however, do not seem as dense as you might expect them to. Like they are, as you get to bone, start hacking, it's like they just break.
They're hollow?
Mm-hmm.
Bird bone hollow?
Almost.
Outstanding. While I'm collecting these other pieces with some weird ideas, the thing I'm primarily looking for is the entrance of whatever they massively overwhelmed this sucker with, to see where the major penetrations were, so that we can line up shots in the future.
He said it was a series of lucky shots. It was a whole bunch of lucky shots.
I'm trying to make it less.
So the only
lucky.
ones you see that do like major organ damage is it does appear that at some point its lungs were punctured.
Okay. So I wonder if we could. I wonder if it's easy to trap these things.
Zorval looks at you. In what? And he kind of just gestures at how large this thing is.
Well, I don't mean the whole body. I mean like a
bird
jaw trap. I mean, I've seen the big metal traps with springs, slam shut, grabbing the leg. That sort of thing.
I've never seen one that big.
Well, no, not yet.
While he's doing his surgery there, I'm going to take a few steps away from the group. And I'm just going to do a simple little cantrip. I do a little sort of twirling motion with my fingers and I point up in the air and a little golden orb appears. And it's just going to tell me what the weather is going to be for the next 24 hours.
Okay.
Druidcraft.
So it'll be not rainy tonight, not rainy for the first couple hours tomorrow, and then rainy the rest of the day.
Okay, so in that case, it changes. The little golden orb changes. It would change into the orb would get brighter, and then would turn in. Then it would turn into a cloud, and then it would just dissipate.
Okay. Cool. I like that.
So, nod.
So as you guys are rooting around inside this animal, well, the two of you are, and Wolfram is playing weatherman. Can Wolfram can you and our daintier friend both give me perception checks, please?
Sure.
Sight-based, if it makes a difference. The clouds begin to break. The sun starts shining through. There's an instant warmth that hits this place.
I got a 11.
And a 13.
Okay. DBJ, you are maybe looking around so that you're not looking directly at this evisceration that is that's happening. And earlier you'd been pondering like what sort of resources are here that would. And so as you're looking around, you see this form cross in front of the sun. And it's large, maybe even the size of this creature here. But it looks more fish-like. Imagine a translucent, frilly and tentacly dolphin the size of a car swimming through the air. And it's just, but as strange as that is, as it kind of passes the skyline, you see in the distance, and a good distance, a structure.
Oh.
Far, 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 the other side of this forest, there is a small mountain range that sits there. On that mountain, if your eyes aren't deceiving you, is a structure, a building of sort.
I unconsciously, like, I'm looking at this creature kind of like pass, like there's like a little shadow. I catch the shadow out of the corner of my eye and I kind of look at it. And then when it passes in front of the structure, I kind of stop. And then unconsciously, I put my hands up doing the theater, like trying to focus my vision in at some random, is that something in the distance? Kind of pointing / framing it. And I not quite getting it. Someone may see me doing something, but I haven't mentioned it because I'm not quite sure what
I would think probably that Wolfram sees you because he's looking at his dissipating cloud, just like, look.
Yeah, it was just a 6-second spell when I did.
Yeah, so I would think he would probably see you doing.
So the first thing I want to check to see is if other people see this sky fish or not, and if they react to it or not, or if it just seems I've seen those before many times.
That in my back with a big muddy handprint on it.
You don't know that.
Not yet.
Okay, I could have done it on your butt.
So your two companions are busy with their work.
Yeah, one of them's literally inside the thing.
Right.
Yeah, I can imagine like hearing in the background. No, the gallbladder. It's the other one. Yeah.
If
Give me that.
if Zorval notices, he doesn't pay attention because he's likewise giving. Oh yeah, get that bit. That bit is tasty.
Okay, so I'm going to say to Thargus, that was odd. I've never seen one of those creatures before, but
I hadn't either. I'm still staring in the distance. Like, what is
I'm trying to see what he's looking at now because the fish is gone.
It takes you a few moments, but eventually, like you do that, like where he's like doing like this, and then you kind of like lean over so that you're looking through the same box he is.
Like,
Push his head out of the way.
But yeah, you two see that in the distance there is some sort of structure on the mountain.
Could I estimate the distance between us and it? Like 50 miles, 500 miles?
Yeah, survival?
Well, I mean, I have the survival skill. I'm not proficient in it.
And sure, give me a
Just
roll.
ballpark, like, what's the limit of my vision, even for that matter?
Well, you limited your
All right.
vision's horizon, so depending on.
Well, on Earth, that's 3 miles roughly. So at least over land. I got a 9, by the way.
I mean, if you had to guess, and since you are, 30, 40 miles maybe.
Okay, that's doable in a day on a horse if the forest wasn't in the way.
Just gotta get rid of that pesky forest.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm working on it.
Burn it down. All down.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
What didn't back in core they say that there was no one here, there was no natives here, because I bet animals didn't build that.
So,
I'm saying this to Sargus.
gotcha.
Are we sure someone here didn't build it? I don't.
Way over there, the homesteaders aren't that far. The homesteaders are just now. As far as I know, no one's explored that far, which means that's got to be natives building that. The question is, I'm lowering my voice. Do we just check it out ourselves, or do we let the other guy know? I thumb over to Zeverall.
Something just isn't right about this place. I mean, the settlement.
Got that right.
Yeah,
More than just one thing.
I
don't think everything that we've been told, is much of the story. Be cautious who you trust here.
Yeah. Look, I'm aware you guys may not think maybe I should be here, but listen, someone's got to keep an eye out on how this is going to impact us and impact everyone when we get back home. And I think that we should check it out to find out for ourselves. I mean,
I agree completely. Yes.
You know,
yes. Let's not tell any of the officials here. We'll let the other two know, but
yeah, not yet. Anyway, I mean, it could be very dangerous. I mean, really could. Maybe they're trying to keep us safe or keep it away from civilization, but
they would probably just ask us to check it out anyway.
Sure. Yeah, probably. I can see that.
Well, I, for one, am glad you're here. I pat him on the back, and as I do so, I'm going to pin like a little bird feather to him.
In the background, oh, wow, look at the structure of this eye.
Full vivisection going on there.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. It takes you guys a little bit, but you do manage to carve out chunks of this this creature, and if there's particular organs you're interested in, you can have those as well.
Nah, I'm more interested in the hide itself. Again, I'm looking for weak spots. I was checking the eyes, like would an eye shot, in other words, could an eye shot, take this thing down, like get in the brain that way, or like I'm looking for all the usual suspects, like under the neck. Some of the joints in the legs could it be hobbled essentially to make it, to essentially bring it to a halt so that they could have time to bring it down, that kind of thing. So I'm looking for those kind of deals. While Dur is sort of looking at the internal structure, looking for, its vulnerable organs and that kind of thing. And then we're kind of comparing notes as we're going along.
So, combining your exploration and your knowledge, yours of machines and Dur's of killing things.
Yep.
Its weak points are definitely its eyes, its ears, and then that bulby thing it has on the front of it. Right.
I
It
also
looks like
have
there's a
medicine, so-
direct shot through there into the throat.
Okay. So I'm drawing sketches in my thing of the front of this thing, and I'm making like little circles where the spots are, and making notes regarding that. And okay, good. We can do this. This will work.
I'd like to use my knowledge of genitalia to determine if it's a male or a female.
This one does not have any exposed genitalia, so you're assuming female.
I just want to know because
check with Dora on that.
female, the males could be bigger, and I mean this isn't even as big as they get.
Well, you could always ask the orc there. I mean, they've probably seen a number of these by now, so that he might have intel.
Can everyone give me a listening perception style check, please? And Dur, you're gonna be at disadvantage for having your head inside of a forest whale, but
a forest whale's butt, yeah.
I got a nat 20.
All right, well,
Nice.
you hear it.
All right, hang on.
Yeah, kind of a waste, really.
13 plus. 18.
Okay.
Thargus got a 15.
9.
All right, well,
Yeah.
there's like it's hard. All right, the rest of you hear this sort of sound coming from down near the river. And Zorval turns and instantly is like getting his crossbow ready. Oh, it's the water bunnies. And as comical as that sounds, this guy looks like it's an issue.
I'm up on top of this thing's head. Do I have I kind of look in the direction where
Yep.
he seems to be
There you go.
concerned. Okay.
Those things are coming up out of the river. You can see they're not swimming. They've been running the length of the river. You can see there's like 4 more of them out there. They're not coming from the water necessarily, but they are coming up out of the shallows of the river towards you guys now. They're maybe 100 yards away.
Okay. I am going to take out my crossbow, and I hold it for a moment and bow my head in prayer as I'm holding it, and the structure itself begins to sort of shimmer a bit, and the arms of the crossbow begin to glow like my hammer did, almost like there's a little fire trailing off the edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I cock it and mount in a bolt.
Okay. Zorval is he has clambered to the top of this thing also, or at least one of the thighs, and he's stomping on it as though it's going to make some sort of hollow sound. Oh, get out here! And he releases a shot that misses just slightly as this thing sort of jigs as he shoots in this direction.
I'm going to move closer to the tall, unstomped grass outside this path.
Mm-hmm.
And from the edges of it, I'm going to, I got this crossbow. Why not? I'll take a shot.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a position just on the outside of... Oops, sorry.
14 just misses. It just narrowly jigs out of the way of the bolt.
Okay, I'm just duck a little bit into the grass.
Yeah, as soon as I can, I'll take my shot too.
Okay, so we'll just go across here. We'll go DBJ, then we'll go you, and then we'll get We'll get Dur out of the
Belly of the beast.
un-Jonah him.
Yeah, I was going to take a position near him. I am not getting in the circle of dissection, but I know his head's down in there, his legs kicking up as he's like digging down deeper, and but I'm drawing my sword, with the scabbard in one hand and the long blade in the other hand.
Okay.
Just in case they get close enough to do anything. Once Dirk gets his head poked out, he'll be all right. But for right now, he's busy, and so
sure.
Take a position near him.
All right. Alex, go ahead and take your shot.
Okay. That is a whopping 16.
All right, so a 16 does hit.
Okay.
They look incredibly.
7. Actually 8 points of damage because my crossbow is enchanted now. So,
Okay.
actually, yeah, because it says to hit and damage. So, yeah.
So
All right.
it's just as the bolt penetrates this thing's hide with no problem. It lets out another shrill cry. At this point, between the whomping on the beast, Zorval screaming, "Get out here!" and the second scream that sounds like small children being put in a blender, Dur, you feel the need to extricate yourself from the mine here.
Legs kicking, squirming, backing out. So you're going to see my legs and then my butt come up out of the top of this thing, trying to slide around and figure out what the heck is going on.
So you pop back out of like more or less the top of it. You're kind of prone on your belly next to Icarus. You have just on the ground down from you is Thargus, whose attention is kind of looking around the butt end of this thing with a sword and scabbard. Icarus has a crossbow that is not at the moment loaded. Zorval is in the middle of reloading his crossbow. You look like you just came out of the Carrie film, and you look up, and there are these two, what he referred to as water bunnies, charging up the short grass towards the long grass towards you guys. They do seem a bit clumsy, like they're not proficient at running on solid ground necessarily, but they're coming your way.
I'm going to shout over to our orc friend here and say, what kind of damage these things do? What do we need to look out for?
He lifts up his left arm, and you can see these bite marks in his hard leather armor.
All right. Biting. Got it. Biting water llamas. Got it.
Well, considering all my stuff's on the ground on the other side, because I wasn't taking my equipment in the hole with me.
Sure.
All I had was, shirt, pair of pants, and a pair of boots, and the hook sword. I keep the hook sword in hand and wait, sort of wait till they get close enough to use it.
All right. So these things, they move with a good speed, but they walk or they run like a child with shoes too big on their feet. Right? There's a sort of like flipperiness to them as they come up the grass. They are heading directly for this forest whale. So they charge this and are gnashing teeth and clawing up at you guys on top of the deal, but they're still at this point probably 30, 60 feet away. So you guys will have another full round of actions before they close, but they do move quickly.
I say between gritted teeth, I'm like, they're going for the meat, the prey, and I kind of gesture towards this large dissected monstrosity that's like right near us,
right. We'll just go from my right to left. So, Rob, what you doing?
So it seems that what Fergus just said is true. They're headed right at this carcass,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a step out of the grass and I'm going to gesture both my hands and fingers spray wide. And in a patch, maybe about 15 feet long by about 6 or 7 feet wide, between them and the carcass, but near the carcass, the ground is just going to be soaked in this slippery grease.
All right. Awesome. Dara, what are you doing?
In all my bloody glory, I'm going to
Mhm.
stand up and I'm going to imitate the roar of a mountain lion from the whatever those mountains were just north of Elvin Town,
Mm-hmm.
and just make it as loud as my oratory skills will go. But it's definitely a predator's call.
Okay.
I'm hoping I can scare him off.
Fair enough. You see their ears like perk up, but they continue their run in the direction they're going. You see two others down at the edge of the water also now look that direction, and they slink into the water so that only their shoulders and their heads are above it, and they start swimming parallel to the shoreline, like they're beelining out. Thargus, what are you doing?
I'm watching the animals come close. I'm in my head. All I'm picturing is Durg being dragged down into the water along with the carcass and stuff. And the only thing I can picture in my head are like these like water jackals or something. And I'm going to move away from them. I am not standing in the beeline because they look too nasty.
All
So yeah, I'm dodging. I'm getting out the way.
All right, Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I will loose another bolt at this at the same one.
All right.
I rolled a natural 19, so that's a hit.
Yep.
And a total of 6 more points of damage from the bolt.
Okay. So the bolt buries in again. You can see a copious amount of blood flowing out of this thing, trailing down its legs. It starts to lag behind the other one and lets out this not helpless but help-ish cry. But it's still moving in your direction. You can even see it sort of like looking back for the other two. The one it's still moving at full speed is going to close the entire distance towards the carcass at this point.
Hey, Zevral, how smart are these things?
Too smart if you ask me. And he shoots at the same one that you had shot at. You see, right before he shoots, you hear him in this sort of guttural tongue, and this glow just bursts above the injured water llama. And he shoots. There's a sizzling sound as his bolt hits the target and drives so deep that you can no longer see the bolt. It just boom, and it just tumbles, right? I mean, just butt over tea kettle, just rolls as it's running towards you, and eventually comes to this very sort of splurchy stop. As its blood pours out of it, and it lays there with these very dead eyes, tongue lolling out of its mouth past these sort of hooked and disgusting looking fangs, maybe 5 feet short of this carcass, as the other one finally gets up to it and cries, and you can hear these jaws just as it begins to rake and bite at the hide of this this gigantic beast. Wolfram.
So the grease didn't seem to have any effect
Nope.
on their.
The grease.
They were clumped, so I was kind of hoping.
You heard them splort through it, but you, as you look at them, you can see that they have these webbed, clawed feet, and you get the idea that these things spend all of their time running through things like mud.
Got it. All right, so I'm going to charge right at this one while it's feasting, and I'm going to sink my sword, my GN, right into it.
All right.
Swinging.
You can attack with advantage because it is thoroughly distracted as it's working at the moment.
Good. I got a hit on the second one, but not on the first one.
All right.
So 18, I'm assuming, is a hit.
Yes.
So yeah, I sink my. It's kind of a halfway between a short sword and a long sword. I sink it halfway into it for 10 points of damage.
Okay. As this thing is biting and gorging, there's this very shrill cry that is muffled and gargled at the same time as it's trying to cry out past this fluid. You realize that in that moment that it's not blood, but you can see a burning mark in the flesh of this large beast as it turns towards you, and a little bit of spittle lands on your hand, Wolfram, and it has this nasty burning sensation that makes you sort of draw it back as though you had just touched a hot stove.
Got it. I'm going to just disengage as a bonus action. That gives me 5 feet.
All right. This thing backs its back up against the big beast and is now sort of moving from foot to foot as it's anticipating more attacks. Dur, what you doing?
I'm jumping down on its back.
I say, I get the assist, you get the goal.
Go for it.
I'm jumping down onto its back.
All right.
As soon as I land, I'm going to hit it.
Okay. Go ahead and roll to hit. You will not get advantage because it's not eating anymore, but
yeah, I missed 10.
Yep. So
bonus action, I'm going to hit it again.
Yeah.
Oh no, I fumbled that one.
So you land on its back. You smack at it with this sword that you're just not used to. It broadsides or blunt sides it. It bucks you off of its back, and in that motion, attempting to flip kick it as you go down, instead you land in this squelchy grass from this blood pouring out of it, and you're standing next to what is like a 5 foot tall watery type rabbit with webbed clawed feet that looks pretty angry and scared out of its mind. Thargus.
All right. I'm looking at Durg and quite impressed with his blood-soaked body as he tries to jump on it. And I take a deep breath and I'm going to help him out.
All right.
And so I'm going to use. First, I'm going to. Okay, this is going to seem kind of strange, but I'm going to use. I make an insight check versus the deception of the other creature in order for me to gain the ability to sneak attack it. So I'm watching what it's doing, waiting for an opening, and then I'm going to strike its hindquarters. But I have to make an insight check first against what.
So it doesn't have deception. So a charisma roll?
I guess that's
yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You would almost think it would be like a wisdom roll for an animal, but regardless, he's got an 11.
I could see that though. I could see. I mean,
yeah, it's an 11.
All right. 8 plus. Why is it? Okay. 13.
So you beat it.
Yep. All right. So while Durg has it distracted, I'm gonna holding my blade against my forearm. I'm gonna rush in and strike it in its hindquarters. And ooh, 17.
You hit.
All right, so that's where's my 2d plus. There we are. And that is 9 points of damage.
All right, you can describe how you kill it.
Oh, really? Okay. I charge in with the with my long sword, like basically a forward thrust, like a fencer would do.
Mm-hmm.
And then and when it tries to kick back, I push the blade in deeper, take the palm of my hand, try to push it in, and then step back as it tries to kick free.
Okay. So it sort of somewhere between hisses and howls as it tries to claw at Dur, and eventually it collapses. This acidic spittle leaking out of its mouth and burning away some of the short grass that is in this area. A very triumphant roar comes up from Zorval as he is hands above his head, very orcishly cheering you, all of you. And then he screams out in Orcish. Do any of you speak Orc?
I do not know.
All right.
Oh yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Okay, so he basically screams out the equivalent of, "Does anything else wish to challenge me and my little brothers?" And you can see he's pretty hulking and fuming at the moment. And it takes him a little bit to finally calm down. And that was good.
Oh, we'll have something to bring back for people to eat, right? We can haul these things back, right?
These are what we normally hunt when the grass beasts are not around. There are 3 beasts in this area. This, and he looks around like he's expecting to find one, and doesn't. Another. No, wolf-like.
Okay.
But
We saw a creature that
Called a
much resembled a flying fish.
yes. We have not seen them close. They live, and he points towards the mountain. They live in the mountains. Or he doesn't say it lives. He says nests, but he says it questioningly, not like he knows. They nest in the mountains.
I'm gonna go down to where one of these things was biting on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looked like it was excreting some kind of acid.
Yeah.
I definitely want to check that out, because that if these things are accustomed to eating, either scavenging or hunting these bigger things, then again, with the whole don't reinvent the wheel thing, if we can learn how they hunt them, then we can hunt them.
Okay. Makes sense.
So I'm gonna check what it was doing, and I'm gonna see if it has any sacs in its mouth that might be able to be harvested.
So without spending too much time on it, as you look at it, what you figure out is you look at the hide of this beast, and then this thing, and then and you can see other marks on this large forest whale. They weren't burned as deep as this one, but there's multiple of them kind of like scarring the beast. What you thought maybe at first was just mottled hide.
Right.
Especially on its, like, nothing on its back, but on its sides and on its belly, you can see these in this particular area where it got to latch on, it did eat away through the hide, and this thing was getting to meat and blood. As far as sacks in the beast, you don't really find anything. If you completely dismantle the rabbit thing, you'll find that it has very large salivary glands. That maybe that's where it creates them from, and with a little bit of messing around, yes, you can squeeze some acid out of those two sacks that sit like back here in this thing.
All right.
Here in this thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of taking a look to see, because if they get these things all the time, then maybe I could have them, save me the head, and I can like look at, maybe we can do something with the teeth, maybe we can do something with the acid. I don't know.
Yep.
But
so looking over the creature, it's covered in a thin hair. It has webbed feet, a very, very obviously carnivorous mouth. The teeth are slightly hooked, though. It looks like it's meant to bite in and then almost like a lamprey sort of hold on.
Yeah.
And you can still see the other ones. They've swam up the river a bit, and they seem to be in the shallower part of the river, just sort of circling.
So
keeping an eye out.
So maybe when these things cross the river, these things just kind of nibble on them like lampreys as they go across. Maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm postulating that they're intelligent, like pack hunters.
Yeah.
Maybe drawing. They can smell their prey. Maybe drag it down into the water and lead it into danger or something. Lead into a trap.
They seem a little reckless, though. They, I mean, we wounded one pretty bad, and they still kept coming. Yeah, that's a sign of desperation as far as hunger goes.
They have a frenzy.
Could be blood frenzy from what we were.
Yes.
What Dur was doing.
Okay. Gotcha.
I am wondering about the value of their fur. Might bring in a few coin.
As you say that, Zorval sort of thrusts his arm forward, and you can see these furred gauntlets he's wearing. It's very nice. And indeed, it's very almost like ermine, like in that sort of very soft, like silkiness to it.
Well, skinning's not my thing. Dur, you seem quite comfortable with climbing inside beasts, and you're already bloody.
You're already bloody.
Oh, I can see about having it skinned if you want. Part of the process.
Well,
think about the rain.
My friend Thargus here is more concerned with fashion than I am, but thank you.
Think about the rain we saw when we first got here. I bet this repels water really well.
He nods, and then he makes a comment about it's always raining here.
Yeah. Well, at least
it'll be raining tomorrow.
At least you won't want for water.
He looked at the river. I guess not.
To be fair, you're not going to drink out of this. Not with these things pissing in
so
me anyway.
So he looks at some of the hide you've collected from the bigger creature. We're gonna have to work with it quick. He taps it. It gets brittle.
All right. Well, then I guess what I'll do is I'm gonna take some of the see if I can get any lard from this thing. I mean, I imagine it must have some kind of
Yep.
especially since I'm in the water. And I'm gonna try and basically, I'm looking to get a few good chunks of this thing, like squares I can use for targets, so I can test bolts on it and stuff.
That's no problem.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this lard to sort of coat it, just slather it all over it to to hopefully if it dries out quickly to try and keep some of that in. So and then I'll just wrap it all, and then I'll wrap it in another layer of skin or something, and then just kind of tie up the whole bundle for travel.
Okay. Coming down the path from Postgate, you see those two the two war pigs with their riders. They are halflings. They are bundled in these large robes. The only thing you see of them is their eyes. They both have these long lances. The lances themselves are metal hafted. And then instead of being like a true lance of point, it is a jagged blade that comes out, hooks up a little bit. And it looks wicked.
Yeah.
But they're riding with those in their hands, and they ride slowly past and look at you. They don't say anything, and then they continue riding their pigs down towards where you can see in the distance some homes with smoke coming up. And there,
I'll give them a shout as they go by. Hey, how's it going?
So one of them pulls his pig to a stop, and he says something in a foreign tongue, and the other one keeps riding. He gives him his spear. The other one keeps riding off, and this one dismounts from his pig. He tells the pig something, and the pig goes around starting to sniff around and eat maybe the beetles that were running away from the carcass, and he comes back over in his it's the robe itself is a mixture of sand tones and blues, and he without removing anything, yes, good afternoon, hunters.
Well, honorary hunters at least.
You have brought down a mighty beast.
I kind of gesture the big thing. Oh, this? No. We're looking for new ways to perhaps kill them, but we didn't bring down this one. We brought down those two, though.
He looks at them. Yes, they're foul creatures.
No, I'm pretty sure they're mammals, but still, probably quite delicious.
They are good with spices.
You're from the homestead, are you not? Do you have a name for the place? They call it the homestead here.
And then he turns and looks at his partner right off. We are not from the homestead. On the other side, I am Nozama.
Well, pleased to meet you.
I look at the others.
We too call it the homestead.
You live here on the other side of the river?
No, the other side of the homestead. We have not tried crossing the river. We have been thinking about it. But... And he looks at Zorval. They don't want us to. It's a dangerous thing.
Curious. I won't comment on that in public.
Yeah.
Could I pay you for some of your meat?
I kind of look over at Zevorl and say, "Oh, what's the protocol for a situation like this?" I yield to your knowledge of the area.
He knows he can have it.
With?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Please help yourself.
Did you ask what would he pay with?
Yes.
Well, I have.
I'm assuming they don't share a currency. So.
No. So he produces a couple of different things. Like he's got a little bit of salt on him. He's got some other like southern spices. He's got a little bit of tobacco on him. He's got a tiny like halfling sized dagger that he would offer. Basically, he would just barter for it.
I don't need to be too specific here, but how clean is this individual? Like, is he
Impeccably.
once a month rank? Oh, okay. Okay, good. So I'm going to produce maybe a pair of little scented soaps, like little soap spheres.
Mm-hmm.
Would these be of interest to you? Perhaps we could make a trade.
He takes one from you and smells it, and yes. What would you have for it?
Well, you have some salt there and some tobacco, both of which I happen to know are in demand in where we're staying. So that seems equitable to me. Whatever amount you think is fair. I wish to establish a friendship and a relationship.
Okay. He ponders for a moment, and he gives you basically a small pouch of salt, maybe 8 ounces of salt, and then
Okay.
an equal amount of tobacco. It is not coreish, nor is it that same weird flowery smelling stuff that Zorval had earlier.
Good. So I will say thank you. Perhaps we can do business again in the future. Smile broadly.
He bows very deeply, never once taking his eyes off of any of you.
All right, I'll just copy his actions.
I must be going. And he turns and he whistles. His pig trots over. He climbs up on his pig and he travels
What
down.
a pig.
You notice now that in the distance, in the grass that's like 3.5 feet tall, right? That the other pig stands back up and that the rider gets back on top of it. You see him put away a short bow, and then they continue. They're not very trusting.
Their garb, was it like hides, that kind of thing? Or was it like manufactured clothing? Or
if you so it's definitely manufactured clothing. Would it have been something that you would have done to have attempted to touch his clothing?
No, I'm just trying to get a sense of, are they like rugged and wearing leathers and hides, or are these people making clothes and they have, sewing ability and things like that?
Definitely the latter, not the former.
Okay. So the more civilized they might first appear.
So, you probably know of the Southern Kingdoms, the Southern trade houses. They're all
Southern. You mean from the other side?
From core. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I came from the south.
Yeah. So these are. So you go past the Elvish area, and there's like a. I don't know, a savanna / desert. Like it's like a deserty plains. It alternates between being grassland and desert that direction.
Okay.
And there are oasis cities, and that's where these guys are from. They're probably a merchant house or representatives thereof.
Yeah, I got a bunch of questions I want to ask my comrades, but in private.
So yeah, like the textile trade from the south is pretty good. Not as crazy as the houses in the east. The houses in the east are the ones that have things like silk and really supple skins from very large snakes and such.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in my hometown, but I could never afford it.
But the southern garb is very nice. It's it keeps you cool when it's hot and it keeps you warm when it's cold, and that's its purpose. But it's also very ceremonial for them not to show their faces if they don't know you. So
Okay.
that's almost religious. So, you guys can spend as much time hacking parts out of this as you want. But as it progresses in the afternoon and gets closer to dark, Zorval gets more and more anxious to go back to town.
Yeah, I make it clear I'm ready whenever he is.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're just getting together what we're planning on taking back with us, meat and skins and other stuff, and heading back. I mean, I think we all want to be back before dark. So, do you guys point out the structure that you guys saw in the distance at all? Or
I will, but I don't want the orc to hear me. I want to do it in private when Zevral's not around.
okay,
I don't.
let me know if you do, because yeah.
Well, I absolutely wanted to tell you. I know I have a few other things to discuss, but I'm not sure who to trust on this side yet. So
Yeah.
I just want to stick to the 3 other people I know.
Right. Yeah. So
eventually, if you guys continue to hack off chunks of meat, Zavor will ask if you feel like you're okay here by yourselves for an hour or two.
Yes.
And he's going to go back up and retrieve essentially a sled, right, to put some of this meat on. Don't go near the river.
No, don't worry. But yeah, we'll be happy to wait for you.
He takes a large horn off of his side, like the blowing type. If there's trouble, use this.
All right.
I'll nod. Smile. Give him the big wide fake smile.
I say, before you go, are there any other beasts that we should worry about other than the biting water llamas or the anything like that?
The dog.
I just wanted to take him by surprise.
He tells you about the 2 other animals, the ones that you guys saw traveling in herds before.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's apparently a wolf-like creature, but they think they've scared them off. They seem to be terrified of fire or light. They're not sure which. They've never seen them in the daylight, and at night, whenever you just like wing a torch in their direction, they tear off.
Okay, good to know. It's good to know. Thank you. Well, we'll be here when you get back.
All right.
So once he's gone, I'm going to say, Icarus, do you have a moment? Also, do you have one of those? Oh, what do they call them? They're tubes you look through. They help you see far. I know. I knew a rich merchant had one once.
Yeah, I don't know if I have one actually or not. We're looking.
In any case,
I did not.
come over here and have a look.
All right, yeah.
Greg should probably see this also when he's done his dissecting. And I'm going to point and sort of, guide his vision a little bit to where I saw this structure.
Oh, while they're doing that, I'm going to strip and wipe as much blood off of me as I can with the long grass.
Okay. There's a river you can go get washed up in.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'll go with you and take a look at what you're showing me.
Am I mistaken? Thargus pointed this out to me. It seems to be a structure. I thought this place was uninhabited, at least as far as Core knew.
Huh. I think I heard they might have seen structures possibly in the mountains, but I hold my hand up to my eye and I kind of curl it into like a kid, almost like a kid's version of a spyglass, and I'm looking through my hand like that, sort of focus my attention, and I kind of stare at it for a bit. Again, with an eye towards construction and engineering to kind of get a feel for what this might be.
You get the idea that it's large, city-ish, fortress-y, stone, and maybe further away than Wolfram thought it was.
Okay.
Not greatly. But.
Yeah. I say, this thing's a good distance away. It's big, really big. Like
Yes, I was
a fort, maybe.
curious why would such a thing be here? I mean, we should know more about it. It could be a potential threat or source of resources. In any case, Thargus had the idea that we shouldn't tell anyone else, and I think that's a good one.
I agree. You think about going to take a look?
Well, yes, when we get a chance. I don't want to alert. I sort of gesture towards the building back there.
Well, that would be a good hike, but I think we can do it.
But you three, I trust. I'm not sure who to trust here yet.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way. So,
There are
Steve,
definitely some oddities here. I think perhaps maybe tonight we should discuss this, the four of us. There are things here that don't make sense.
yeah, there's a lot that doesn't make sense. I also want to try to think of some ways to maybe we can get across this river. This river seems to be the biggest hurdle to this place expanding into something more civilized, shall we say?
Yes, I said we'll need some sort of boat. I don't.
Excuse me,
swimming with those creatures.
If I'm prying, please let me know. But I couldn't help notice that you were foretelling the weather. You seem to have a deep connection with nature, I guess. Is that so? Or?
I shrug at him. I know a few little tricks about living in the woods. I make a gesture with my left hand, and like a little flame appears in it. I spent a lot of time living outside of buildings, not out of choice, just lack of coin and friends when I was younger.
You wouldn't happen to know any such things that might be able to tame wild beasts to be a bit more friendly toward you?
No, but I might be able to have a conversation with one.
As if any of these beasts could be tamed somehow, especially the ones that swim, that could solve a number of problems right there.
I once met a group who had many more such abilities than I, but they never taught me that trick, I'm afraid.
So, Steve,
I could speak to one, perhaps learn where it's been.
Indeed. When I'm looking at the structure, does the line look unbroken? Like, does it look like it's intact or more of a ruin?
It's hard to tell because as you try and like look at it and figure it out, there are parts of it that have an organic nature to them, although it would be a planned organic nature, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So
kind of like elves would build a forest city kind of thing.
Kind of. Yep. Kind of.
Match this. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have a spyglass, but maybe it's time we got one. I might be able to make something, perhaps. Take a little bit longer. Glass isn't exactly my preferred medium, but maybe I'll do something. But yeah, I guess everything else in the meantime is just packing stuff up until our orc friend returns.
So eventually, you do see a figure riding a horse down this direction. Trotting alongside the horse is a dog, an Irish wolfhound, to give a description to it. Trotting alongside it, very well trained. I mean, it's keeping right there next to. But the figure on the horse is not Zorval. It's a much slighter person, and as she draws close, that's what she looks like. And she slides down. Was that?
This is coming from the direction of the town, whatever.
Yep. She's got on the trailing behind the horse is a sled.
Yeah, okay.
But she pops down and walks over towards you, puts her fists on her hips. She says, well, that was quite the welcome to Postgate, wasn't it? I am Arcanist Sheena Frau. I'm the equivalent of mayor here.
Delighted to meet you, Mayor. Say it earnestly.
Yes, quite some interesting wildlife you have around here.
Very much so. I was wondering if I could speak to you, ask a favor of you. You're new here. No one knows you.
Please. Yes, you may speak to me as long as you like.
Well, of course, yeah. I suppose we have plenty of privacy here if that's what you're looking for.
Privacy may be what you are looking for, but privacy is what I definitely seek at this point. I'm the embarrassed. I'm naked out here trying to clean clothes.
She
You got a whole animal to hide in. What do you want?
She looks over at you. Nothing I haven't seen before. And then she waves her hand, and you are clean.
Oh, that's a bit personal.
The only question is, did I enjoy it?
Could you do that again once I'm done?
He just prestidigitated you. Yes, I was hoping we could speak out here, and if everything goes well, you could leave tonight.
We could leave tonight.
Leave?
Is that what she said?
Yep.
Yeah.
She walks over to the horse and pulls a small pack off of it. She sets down what looks like a mixing bowl, maybe 6 inches across, and she dumps some coals into it and then sparks a fire into it. All of this she kind of does without, like, it's very nonplussed for her, right? This is, and she finds a spot that maybe is drier than the rest, and she sits down near this little tiny campfire she's just made. Have a seat.
Huh? Yeah, I'll go sit down with her.
I'll sit right beside her.
I'm going to need you to cross the river. There's a second gate that's been discovered.
Raised eyebrows even higher.
Yeah. Oh.
I need you to help Arcanist Iope.
I smile. I'm thinking opportunity, reward, connections, payoff.
So the Arcanist Iope part probably catches Wolfram and Thagris a little bit, because him and Iope, you guys met, but he's part of the church, which would prevent him from being an Arcanist, right?
Dude's double dipping.
His father must not find out about this, but I would have you assist him.
And why do we need to leave so urgently?
I have reason to believe that there are others that seek this gate as well.
I see. Well, yes, go on. Tell us what you can that would help us do this.
But by the way, while she's sort of talking, I'm going to catch Wolfram's eye, and I'm going to sort of like, kind of like move my head ever so slightly and kind of glance over toward the structure we saw in the distance, and I kind of like make a gesture as if, you know, should we mention it?
I'm gonna give him a little head shake. No.
Yep.
I nod back.
She produces a sheaf of papers out of a leather pouch, and they are basically a report that talks about the incident on the train, the death of the Althanian, and a suspicion that the serpents may be involved over here. And to make matters worse, the author of the letters believes that the serpents have infiltrated the Church of Kor.
The serpents? Can you remind us what?
So
I've heard this before.
I don't know that any of you would actually know what they are. So with that question, she'd explain it to you.
Sure.
In the south, the southern kingdoms, the southern merchant houses, there is a religion that was born out of the oasis that is all about money and mercantilism. It has since become a much darker thing. Rumor have it buying and selling of souls and things like that. And it kind of goes in line with the fall or the degradation of the Church of Kor, right? They're more concerned about these falsehoods than they are the actual acts of doing good. So there's been they're in the church. There's always been a worry that their members are being influenced by the serpents. The letter goes on to say that the author is very concerned that some of the high-ranking individuals in the church might, in fact, now be followers of the Church of the Black Snake or serpents, which is worrisome for the state of Kor, for the Church of Kor, and for everything that the Arcanum is attempting to do on this side. Because if there is potential for large amounts of magic, which the author believes would be required to have formed these gates, opened these gates, designed these gates, go on, so on and so forth, that if these serpents are truly dealing in things like contracts with devils and demons, buying and selling of souls, that they could get that magic to then bring about some sort of pseudo-religious, pseudo-magical catastrophe. And it says it much more eloquently than that, but that's kind of the gist of it that you either infer from it or that she explains. And it is at the bottom signed, yours always, Ko Titani. So you can see why I sought the four of you out.
Do you know why these dark serpents attacked an Althanian and ultimately killed him?
We have our... Ko's belief is they're attempting to start some sort of power struggle between Kor and Althania.
I see. So the Althanians might blame Kor for the murder.
It looked as though it was to be staged that way.
This is why the shape-shifting. Well, this gate, this suspected second gate, where might we find it? Across the river, you say?
She points across the river. You'll have to speak to Junik Iope. the son of Cayman. I believe you met him. He traveled with you to the gate.
Very well.
His father is
we are to
very
depart.
hard line, so I'll
Well,
have Junik come
Well,
down
that-
to you tonight. Meet you down here. I'll leave my fire with you.
I give a glance over at Icarus, and it just makes me think practically. We will. Is this far? Should we acquire provisions for the trip?
I'll send what I can with Junik. I would provision you better, but our supplies are limited, and missing items more than a nail or two begin to raise questions.
Is it far? One day? Several days?
Several.
I see. And the river. Do you have access to a boat? A raft?
Junik has one. It was a magical device, one-time use, but it's still a boat.
So I'm going to look around at make the faces of all my other companions, see if they have any questions, because I'm kind of run out.
The idea of a one-use boat kind of makes me a little nervous.
No. The boat's a boat now. When he purchased it, it was nothing more than a token.
I see. So, all right. And it will hold all of us in our gear, as you can see. Some of us are more heavily loaded than others.
I believe it has room for 6.
All right, that should be enough. And we're leaving from here, and I point that in the ground. We're not going back to the settlement
No.
first, isn't that correct? I see.
Is there anything of your personal belongings that we could attempt to bring you?
No, I came here sort of expecting to potentially get into trouble, so I brought my trouble stuff. So I should be fine, but...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I had
would
this
you-
large pewter box. Could you bring me that?
I left it somewhere. I don't know where. Subtle.
I hate to ask such a
Yeah.
task of you upon your arrival, but you came with quite literally the highest possible recommendation for someone like me.
Yes,
Well, thank you.
We are good friends with KO, particularly Icarus.
Oh, we've talked a bit, but might we have some little privacy? I'd like to discuss with my friends here. Just a couple minutes or so.
Sure. She gets up and she draws a dagger from her hip that instantly lights the flame, and she walks down towards the river. What place you're
So,
not supposed to go?
Yeah,
I
right.
turn to my companions. So, do you think she's single?
On this side, I'm almost sure of it.
I probably should get distracted. I didn't want to tell her about the structure yet because, well, as I said, we don't know who we can trust here. There's definitely some strangeness about this.
I'd be sort of astonished if she didn't know. I mean, if they know about a gate somewhere off in the woods that way, I mean, they've got to know about that.
This one questions whether or not what the lady is bringing to us may be the reason our 5th companion is no longer here.
Expendables.
He did the part before we met her. However, there were disappearances by the river. Perhaps he was a victim.
This one thinks mayhaps that our more religious compatriot is involved in this at a level we have no knowledge of.
Well,
It's possible.
it's
There is much here we don't know.
that's guesswork at this point. But
there seems to be one way to find answers, though.
And we did want to get on the other side of the river, so
and we want to get in good with the
our
mayor.
best chance. We can certainly find answers, and well, maybe get on someone's good side over here. Wouldn't hurt.
All this work that this one has done for naught. Looking around at the scattered meat and bare bladder. And
no. It's definitely not for nothing. We're gonna be cooking a lot of this tonight to take with us.
How far is it back to Postgate from here? Like
hour and 15 minutes or so.
So we could pop back and drop some shit off and pick some shit up. Like, did she imply that she doesn't want us to?
She implied that she didn't want you to.
Yeah, okay. I get that impression too. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Otherwise, she could just say, yeah.
In that case, I'll look at Dirdirag's lament and just shrug.
I was going to console you, but now, never mind.
Fuck it. Yeah. So
you see her flame coming back towards you guys.
Yeah.
Is it decided then?
Yes, good news. We have agreed to take up this request of yours. If you could provide us with provisions and, of course, a method across the river and back.
Yeah,
that would be
and back. Yes.
Icarus, do you not have a prior commitment for repairing the crossbow?
Well, yes. You might need to speak to our orc friend, half-orc friend there. I did seize the crossbow, although I think we provided him some additional meat and so forth. So I think he'll be okay with it in the long run.
My intention is to tell them that I found you missing.
Oh.
In my head, can't help but think, here I go again.
Won't that be a bit awkward when we return? I'm kind of looking at it like, does she expect us to return? I'm kind of like,
you'll be the first to have gone missing and come back, but I hope not the last.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
I like the sound of that.
I'm kind of watching her with an eye towards
glorious.
Is she genuinely, I mean, if not on our side, at least not against us.
She does not appear to be against you.
Yeah.
But she does seem to be very solely focused on the task.
The task, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got a hint that she might have a different type of connection with KO, not like his wife or anything like that, because you know that he has one of those. Yeah. But also there was a hint of loss when she kind of said that she hopes you're not the last ones to come back.
This quest of ours, if I may use the word so boldly, what is it you actually wish us to do? Locate this gate? Learn about it? Learn more of these dark serpents? Their involvement? Well, what specifically?
Plant a flag,
We're not sure where the gate goes, or even if it does. Junik has told me it's not operable at the moment. But we need to determine if there are more gates that go back to core or not. If there are, she's kind of like, you can tell she's looking through her mind, trying to figure out what she can tell you and what she should tell you. There's that very obvious look to it.
Okay, so I'm going to try and use my considerable persuasion skills to basically convince her that our chances of succeeding on this mission would be much better if we were better informed, in the hopes of getting her to relinquish some more data.
Okay. You gonna give me a persuasion roll?
I'm good at it. Let's see. 15?
Okay. Well, I get what you're saying. It makes sense, but you have to understand that someone at my level, there are things that I simply can't tell you, and if I did tell you, they wouldn't make any sense. I promise I'm not trying to hold back anything that would jeopardize you or KO or Core or the Collegium. What little we've come to understand is the gates were not built on our side entirely. It seems as though perhaps someone came. They were built on Core, but for the purpose of coming back here with a design that was from here. Does that make sense? Someone came from here, went to our world, and then needed a way to come back. If there's more than one gate, does it go to more than one place? More than just Core? Is there another world? Is there another gate somewhere in Core? If so, does this become a staging point for the serpents or for the southern kingdoms or the trade houses
Or indeed the strangers beyond an unknown place?
what if they're still here? And what if they're not happy we are?
The builders, you say. We have used their device that they built to get back, and now we are here.
And the device itself is ancient. Older than Althania. We're sure of it. The stone portal you came through at one point was a tree. Or two, rather. Trees like this. And she points across the river.
Yes, well, we have agreed to undertake this. If there's nothing more you could tell us that would aid us, then there is nothing more you can tell us.
Junik may have more information. I hope he does. He will. I just don't know how useful you'll find it. He's a bit of a arcanistician, if you know what I mean.
Well, perhaps you could speak to both of the IOBs and see if you can get them to be a little bit more forthcoming or talkative with us instead of the rather stoic positions they tend to hold.
Junik is very different from his father, but no, I will not be speaking to Cayman. He mustn't know about this or his son's involvement.
Why?
Cayman belongs to a sect of Core that does not believe that mortals should be dealing in the arcane. For his son to have left the clergy and sought us out at the Collegium was not only a blow to his pride, but also to his rise to power in the church. Something I don't think will be forgiven.
Well, Mayor, if I may make a rather bold observation, it seems to me that there are a number of factions who wish to seize and control this power.
She nods.
And those of you're associated with, the Dark Serpents, Cayman, and perhaps the other Arcanists. How are we, mere visitors to this side, supposed to know who is best assisted, who is best, where this power, whose hands it should be in? You see, what I am saying, of course, I am making no judgments. It's just, how are we to know who should
the
have
heroes of this story are?
Well, we are the heroes, obviously. But
I'm not asking you to determine who's right and wrong. I'm asking you to travel to this portal and learn what you can.
I agree. I think knowing this information would, well, it would certainly be valuable.
Well,
I'm going to look at my companions, see if they're agree.
Yeah. I nod. I say, yeah, well, I think it's worth doing, and to be perfectly honest, I was kind of looking forward to getting across the river anyway. So
good. I'll have Junik meet you.
As good a way as any.
Thank you.
Big smile.
She asked you to help her load up some of the meat to take back to town. They do need it. She between all of you, you'll drag, like, she gets the carcasses of these water rabbits and some of the meat you carved off and loads them onto the thing, and she takes it back. And so kind of as the scene ends, we see this sort of brilliant blue moon shining across the river that lights these trees in a very sort of eerie way, and they all sort of seem to fluoresce a little bit. But it's very pretty. This giant river, this forest on their side, a cloudless night with a giant blue moon, and no creatures immediately trying to kill you. So we'll stop there, and we'll come back to this in 2 weeks.
Okay, sounds good. We'll keep the campfire